Right, so before we get into the podcast episode this week, I just wanted to give a quick disclaimer. Um, Nothing too bad, but we'll be talking about if Lego should make more adult Lego themes. And so we will be talking about adult themes within this episode, specifically mentioning things like violence, nudity, gore, etc., talking about rated R movies and their content. We won't go into a lot of details, but that will get mentioned in this podcast. So no intro today, just that disclaimer. With that said, let's get into the show. Hello, bricks, chicks, and minifigures. You are listening to AFOLs Welcome, where we talk about all thing Lego from the perspective of two adult collectors. We are your co-host. I'm Grinch.
And I'm West.
And today we are going to talk about if Lego should make more adult Lego themes. But before we get into that discussion, did want to just give you a heads up and do a quick PSA. We will actually be taking just a 1 month break here in July to recoup and just kind of take a break while West goes through his move across country, because that can be a big ordeal. And then that way we can do some refreshing, make sure the content's where we want it to be, and come back recharged and ready to go in August. So this will not be the last episode. This will be the second to last episode. We will do one more episode, the penultimate episode. And if you're a fan of Shogun, that means this one's the best. No, but we will be. I just rewatched Shogun this past week, and love it.
Such a good show.
Oh, so good. But so we'll be taking just a month break. We'll be back in August 1st. So next week will be our last episode before that break. But let's move over to some exciting Lego news. Exciting Lego news. All right, so this week in the news area, some Star Wars reveals or leaks. We had some Ninjago gift with purchases, a Ferrari F40, some news with Brick Vault that just literally came out this morning. So, Wes, I'll go ahead and get started with the kind of Star Wars sets. We have the Dark Millennium Falcon. This looks super cool. Also, I've made my stance on Lego Star Wars pretty clear on this podcast, but I'll probably be picking up this one just because it's different, and the Millennium Falcon looks really cool. It's black. They got a lot of dark colors on it, and then it's got red accents on it. And then, of course, it comes with Darth Jar Jar. It comes with a beach, I think it was Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
And then Darth C-3PO, and then good Darth Vader, which is our good Vader, not Darth Light Vader, I guess. He's all white. So it looks really cool. It's something different, something unique. And what are your thoughts?
In this channel, I have talked about in the past how excited I am for this set. And now that I finally see it, yeah, it's cool.
Wait, are you less excited?
I think so. I stand by that the Rise of Skywalker / Dark Millennium Falcon build is probably one of the best play scale Millennium Falcon builds we're ever going to get. The way that they've managed the gaps in between the panels so that the panels up top are completely circular and gap free, which for those of you who've owned previous play scale versions of the Millennium Falcon, Grinch, I know you had one. Some of those panel gaps were very noticeable and obvious. So it's really cool to see that all getting filled in using some of those angled plates that Lego has to the maximum extent possible. Really well done from the Lego designer's perspective. It's an expensive set.
But it's got a good price to part ratio.
It might. If I'm going to be spending, what is it, like $160, $170?
$180 for 1,600 pieces. I know it is expensive.
The problem with that price range is there's so many good sets in that area.
Yeah.
So for example, if I'm going to spend that price tag on Lego, I would rather get the Dune Ornithopter versus the Millennium Falcon.
Uh-huh.
And we don't even really know much about the IP this is based off of.
Saw the
Well, obviously,
trailer.
it's Star Wars, but it's some show that Lego and Star Wars are doing together. So I think it's a really neat idea. I like the execution of it. I think I'm going to keep a distance away from the Dark Millennium Falcon.
Yeah, for me too. And I think this is reasonable because they always like to have a Millennium Falcon on the shelf. Like, I believe you can still get the Rise of Skywalker Millennium Falcon today. Like, it's still available to purchase because they always want a Millennium Falcon on the shelf. So this
I
is,
mean, the UCS Millennium Falcon's
well,
still
I
for
mean,
sale.
true, true,
And they
and
said that was going to retire years ago,
right.
or rumors
It's
had it.
probably selling well though. So for me,
Sure.
I think I'll wait for this to go on sale. 130, 140 seems a lot better than 180. Just because I'm not a huge fan. It's one I'm gonna add it to my wish list. Gonna think about it
Yeah,
for a couple months, not pull the trigger on it right away. Because you do bring up a really excellent point. I mean, it's nearly $200, and I mean, there's a lot in that area. That $200, unfortunately, price point with Lego right now is just like you can pretty much get anything. But
yeah. There's a lot.
there's a lot there, right? I do want to say too. I feel like some of the I've seen some criticism about how like this just ain't it, and how this is stupid,
Interesting.
and that like what is Lego doing their own thing now? And it's like, well, they kind of always have with Star Wars. Like they've literally done this in the past. Like they had the Freemaker adventure, they had the Yoda Chronicle. I mean, like they've literally created things that have become canon. And so I
Yeah.
don't really understand that whole argument, but hey, people are always going to complain. It's the internet. The next one I do want to complain about because it's part of the 25th anniversary, and it's the Droid Factory. And there was I think it was from Brick Clicker, leaked some of the promo material. We haven't gotten any other leaked images of it, and I don't know. I'm not saying Brick Clicker did the leaking. He posted something, um,
Sure.
but it's another. This has like 4 astromechs in it. I think it's gonna be like another $100 or something. Yeah, $100, 1,200 pieces, and it's gonna have the young Leia figure. But it's like, okay, so now there's literally four.
I'm looking this up.
There's
I haven't
literally
seen it, so keep
four,
talking.
or is it three R2? There's three buildable R2D2s like available to purchase right now. The UCS from 3 years ago, the latest one for the 25th anniversary, and now this one. Um, and it's just a Droid Factory set. Like, who cares? But it's going to be $100, and if you want to get all the figures, you're going to have to get it. So I don't know. I'm not excited about this one at all. Another one that I'll wait to see. Hopefully it goes on sale, or I might just buy the Young Leia separate.
They don't even look good.
No, and that's why, like to me, this looks like a gift with purchase, like a
Yeah.
for a $200 set. Because
The
like these,
proportions are just really awkward with the joints on the R2D2s.
they just look terrible.
Because and I know that like somebody at Lego put time and effort into this, so I'm not trying to like take away from like what they've put together. It looks like a brick built version of the Lego R2D2 almost. But even then, some of the proportions with the pieces don't quite
Yeah, his
track.
legs are
And
too
so
chunky.
the joints on the legs are just
Hmm.
really big pieces that really stand out and add a lot to the width. And I get that I'm trying to think of another piece that they could put in that place, but I just can't see anything. For those of you guys on the YouTube channel, I apologize for this very low tech solution, but I'm going to share my phone screen with, and you can just see those legs and the detail there. It just doesn't look great. So if you want to pause it and take a look, you can now. But yeah, dude, I don't.
This ain't it. I've
Yeah.
seen a lot more criticism about this one. Um, and I guess Chopper's in it, but
I
like that looks like a
Chopper
Porg
bothers me so much,
astromech.
but that's neither here nor
That's a
there.
story for another day, huh? Maybe we'll do
Yeah.
it. Maybe we'll just do a West's opinion on Star Wars spinoff.
Why West does not like Dave Filoni.
And with
I'm
that news,
that bombshell.
Ninjago. They did just, or somebody leaked the Ninjago Gardens gift with purchase, so hopefully that'll be coming soon. Um, I actually made the mistake. I missed the initial run with the docks, so I ended up buying it on eBay and
How
for
much
like
was that?
$60.
That's not too bad.
No, 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 it is bad because they end up restocking it on Lego
Oh,
because it's the
well.
VIP reward center. So I like literally like the day
Uh,
after I got it too. I was like, are
womp womp.
are you kidding? But it's okay because I saved my VIP points. So
Oh
now
yeah, for the next one.
for the next because that's the issue is you have to buy it with VIP points. It's not like
Yeah,
it's not like you can just if you don't have the VIP points there, you have to get the VIP points there, right? So it's a more you know it's a longer process than just buying a $200 set and getting it because the VIP points have to be applied, and then you need so many, and like that might not even be enough. So
it seems odd. I'm gonna suggest something for Lego, but
I'm sure they're
could you
listening.
ever see a solution? I'm sure they are, where you could purchase VIP points.
Um,
Like we know they're VIP points, you get about 5% back, right? And then when
mm,
you double VIP, it's about 10% back. But could you ever see a way where like Lego on even a 1-to-1 value allows you to purchase VIP points because they're offering something that you can only get with VIP points?
is is
I'm
is
curious if they
is
continue that in the future. You couldn't go the other way. You couldn't exchange VIP points for cash,
right.
but could kind of like a pay to play thing.
I don't think they need to do that. Oh, and while I was on the VIP Reward Center just yesterday, I did notice the VIP coins are back in stock. So if anybody missed those, they had the
Oh,
classic space one, the castle one, and then the Octan one. But as long as what I wish that they would do to not have to do that because it is. I mean, if you don't
mhm.
have the points, you don't have the points, and like I don't want to be in a position where I feel like I need to carry $50 worth of points in my VIP account in case one of these things pops up, like the microscale castle did, and I just ended up buying that one secondarily. But I wish that they would just commit to be like, this will be available for the next 6 months in the VIP Reward Center,
Mhm.
and that's the solution in my opinion. Because then you can prepare for it, you can plan for it. Because the gift with purchase, I understand, should be the impulse, like, hey, go spend $200, get this gift right during this time frame. But if they're gonna be putting these in VIP reward center like that, I'd at least like them to be like, hey, it'll be available, and if it's June right now, hey, it's gonna be available till December 2024. Um, have fun. That would be that would be ideal in my mind.
Yeah, kind of just sticking with something and committing to it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's it. It does feel a little weird that they do both, and I think that's kind of a foul on Lego's part. Um, because it feels so much like a gift with purchase. So, but
Well, I feel like they're trying to bring more value to their rewards and loyalty program because when people
yeah,
buy sets directly through Lego, they're making more margin on it versus if they sell it to Target, right? Because if they sell it to
that's fair.
Target, they sell it at what probably you know 70 to 50% less than it's retailed for, and then that's how much they're making on that set. Right now, Target's buying it in a lot larger quantities than you or me. That's the whole point of having a distributor like that, or a retail partner. But they're probably
Yeah,
trying to build up loyalty on their website with adults or
I
something.
wonder if there's a way though that they could, because Lego's been pretty notorious with sales, right? And you'll see the retail stores will slash prices. And yes, Lego gets more money, but like if Target's going to take 20% off, then like Lego could probably take 30% off and still make what they were making if they sold it to Target.
Yeah, but I think then you piss off Target, and then Target's like, well, we're just not going to carry you anymore if you're going to just undercut us.
Yeah,
And then,
that's fair, but Lego's also Lego, and at this point, I feel like they
mm,
could kind of push some weight around a little bit. But that's a good point, and they do need to keep in mind, keep everybody happy.
right,
So,
right. You want to talk
let's
about the Ferrari?
yeah, I was gonna say I'd like to press if that's all right with the Speed Champions news that we got this week. We got some leaked images of the new NASCAR Next Gen and the Ferrari F40. And the Ferrari F40 is really exciting because of Ferraris, it's a very classic vehicle for Ferrari, and they did it in 6 wide, and it looked pretty good. So seeing it now in 8 wide, it definitely looks even better. And if you put it next to the Lamborghini Countach that they did a few years ago, you've got like two of the like pinnacle 1980s supercars that are now available in Speed Champion format, it's just really cool to see. The NASCAR Next Gen, I was not initially excited about it, and I think we talked about it on this channel. But now that I've actually seen what it looks like, it has a very flat hood by design, but at the same time, the front is done in such a way with some brick sculpting. It just looks really cool, honestly. And the colors actually look pretty great. So while I was not initially super excited about that, I am that one might go on the list of Speed Champions to get, in addition to the Ferrari, which is fantastic. I will also say, for the channel's sake, because for longtime listeners and viewers, you'll remember Grinch and I had a bet a few months ago about the Mercedes dual pack. Grinch, it has arrived in the mail,
You got it
and so
already?
I did.
I wasn't
I need to
expecting
ship
it for
it
like a year.
there. I need to ship it to you, but it is in good hands. So it's on its way. I need to get one for myself to part out the G wagon, but then keep the yellow roadster.
Sheesh. Just got to
So
get that dig in there, huh?
I know. Well, it's too
Poor,
big.
poor G Wagon.
I know. Anyways,
I might have to get this
um,
Camaro. The Camaro's really cool.
the next gen.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, it looks cool. The purple, the red, the flames. Like
Yeah.
it has a cool look to it. So,
I like the color. It'll
um,
look cool on display too.
yeah. So Grinch, then this morning we got some really cool news about a YouTube channel, and I would love to call us competitors, but they've been around for a lot longer. They do some excellent work.
They don't
I
do a
think
podcast though, so I'd say we're not competitors.
fair enough. They do post videos on YouTube though. And a few years ago, a key member of that team left, and since then the channel did not necessarily maintain the same rate of video production that they used to.
Or
So
level.
that, well, okay, I wasn't going to say that necessarily, but
I'm
if
gonna
you,
say it.
yes, okay, no, there
Not
was
that not
definitely a
that we
little
do
bit of
any
a
better. I'm just saying it.
there
As
was
as
a
a
drop in
as
quality.
somebody who watched that channel like right at it, as I got up, like it was that and Jang Bricks. Like those were the channels that I watched,
Yeah,
and like I love
yeah,
Brick Vault.
that was a weekly channel. Yeah,
Oh,
so
that was a
audience
bi-weekly channel.
we're referencing Brick Vault, and Brick Vault got purchased, and the new owner announced that today on YouTube. But then he also announced something else. And so, Grinch, do you want to share with everybody
You go
what he
right ahead.
announced? I can do it.
You can do it. He's your boy.
Okay. They announced that Mike is coming back to the channel, which is really exciting. And congratulations, Mike, and the entire Brick Vault team. We're really excited for you guys, and we're excited to see what you put together in the future. When Mike left Brick Vault, it was a sad day. You could tell they posted a video about it. I could tell Mike was a little bummed in the video. He's done a lot of hard work for the team and for the channel. And his voice at the time was almost the one voice that you heard.
Mm-hmm.
And so to have Mike come back to the channel is really exciting. He's got so much passion for Lego. It's just really been fun to see him grow in the genre. He does a really great job with video editing and putting all that together. But then too, as a Lego reviewer, while I wasn't a huge fan of him initially, he really grew on me. And his reviews by the end of his time in Brick Vault were really, I think, some of the better reviews that they had been doing. And so it's exciting to see him come back, especially now too, as some of the older Lego YouTube channels have started to fade away a little bit. Seeing Mike and Brick Vault return is really, really exciting. So, Grinch, do you have any thoughts on Mike and Brick Vault?
No, I mean, I used to watch. You know, I don't really ever put notifications on any YouTube channels because I got enough notifications on my phone. I don't need another distraction in my ADD life. But that was one that I did actually used to have notifications on. They had like a weekly news segment that was awesome. Then they did the top 10 mocks of the week, and then they do like a minifigure showcase. It actually inspired me to do my own minifigure showcases like that on my YouTube channel. Um, I mean, I'll admit it. I mean, that was my inspiration because they stopped doing them, and I was like, well, I've got my collection. I'm gonna start doing them too. I love these, and so I just wanted to share and continue that passion. So I just think it's really cool that, um, I mean, obviously it's one thing to say something and it's one thing to do something. So they've announced it. There's a lot to be excited for. Looking forward with Brick Vault, and I think the person that bought Brick Vault was actually already on the Brick Vault team, just kind of in the background and helping kind of keep the channel alive the past couple of years with doing some videos. But he purchased it young kid too, younger than me, and he's from Germany, and so I think it's just going to be kind of cool. It sounds like it's going to be a bit of a new take on the old stuff that they were doing. So
Yeah,
a refresh and a rebrand, if you would, and that's very exciting. So good luck to Brick Vault going forward.
yeah, absolutely.
I do wonder how
We,
much something like that would cost, though. Not
yeah,
that I expect to ever get an answer for that, but I'm just like, because it wasn't doing well necessarily. I mean, you can look at the video views. I mean, you can say it was a dying channel almost, but
I think that's fair.
they have almost 3/4 of a million subscribers. So it's like, do you pay per? I don't know. I don't know how that works. Like,
That's an interesting question about assessing the value of a brand that's entirely based on YouTube,
well,
which
somebody offered Mr. Beast famously $10 billion for his channel, and Mr. Beast said no, it was undervalued.
Mr. Beast, the gamer guy.
Are you trolling? You're not trolling. Oh my god, the internet and I are cringing at you right now. I mean,
Oh,
like
well,
I'm not like everybody knows who Mr. Beast is, but apparently not everybody. I think
not
that though
everyone.
is a good place to pivot over to our main topic. Today's topic. All right, so
Yeah, let's do that.
All right, so getting into our main topic this week, we are going to talk about adult Lego themes and whether or not Lego should make more of them. And when we were trying to, we have a list of topics for the podcast. We've actually had some people send some ideas in. We'll get to one later in Brick Mail. But what really kind of triggered the thought process for this, and as we were brainstorming on our next episode, was the leaks of the Lego Simpsons potential return. And I think ultimately I'm gonna do a Christopher Nolan here. I'm gonna start at the end of the movie and then we're gonna circle back to it at the end. But I remember back when The Simpsons was announced, years ago, and it was a bit of a controversy at the time. It really was because people were like, "That's an adult theme. Kids should not be encouraged to watch Simpsons." But I think a lot has changed since then, and I'll be
Well,
really
and
curious to see people's reaction to a potential Simpsons return today. compared to what it was.
Let's be honest too. Simpsons is not that adult. I
I
mean,
mean, it is and it isn't. Because at the time, like when it first came out, it was an adult cartoon, so it was pretty terrible. But I think the internet has quickly caught up and surpassed The Simpsons in
yeah.
in a lot of ways.
Well, I mean, it just look at something like South Park,
Well,
right?
right. I mean, just one up one, and then even Family Guy, I'd say, is way worse than The
Right.
Simpsons.
So you see, like, The Simpsons was raunchy at the time, but you go back and watch it, and you're like, this is quaint.
Right.
This is not that bad
I mean, for God's
compared
sakes, it's
to
on
like,
Disney Plus now because Disney owns it. So it's like, okay.
yeah, yeah. So it's funny to see. Certainly, there are some adult themes and words used that might be, beyond something you'd see on PBS
Right.
or, your Saturday morning ABC cartoons.
But at the time,
You
that's what it
know,
was compared to, right? Because it wasn't a Saturday
right,
morning cartoon. It wasn't Batman. It wasn't SpongeBob. It was 7 o'clock on a Tuesday or whatever day it aired. I forget.
right.
So and targeted towards adults.
Yeah, yeah,
So I think the question today is should Lego make more adult themes? And we can argue. I'd say Simpsons is a teenage is PG-13 theme. I think what we're specifically talking about too is maybe more of those firm PG-13 movies, right? Where those borderline ones, or even rated R themes. I actually did a Lego Ideas project that got declined because it didn't meet their standards of a theme, and that was a video game called Valorant. I actually hope to actually physically make the mock, and I'll do a video about it one day. Um, but I think to kind of kickstart a conversation, let's dive in and start with Lego's corporate standards up front, right? And
yeah,
I was on their website. There's some on here, right? But belief, right? Children are a role model, so not children and adults. Inspire and develop the builders of tomorrow. Global force for learning through play, systems in play, imagination, fun, creativity, caring, learning, quality. Promises to play well, succeed, and grow together, positive impact on the planet, mutual value creation, the partner promise, and only the best is good enough. But Wes, there's other things that we know from Lego too about some of the values of when they actually build their products. Do you want to share those?
yeah. So we know that. I mean, there's a few things, right? One of them is that Lego takes their tolerances extremely carefully. Everything they do is very precise. There's not a lot that Lego does by accident. And when something seems like an accident, what I would say is generally there's a reason behind it. So when they modify a piece, when they design a new piece, there's a very exacting standards. Famously, Elon Musk, just a few months ago, in an internal email to Tesla, was pretty upset over their own production standards and said Lego can reach higher standards than we can. And they're a toy company. And so Lego definitely puts things up on a pedestal, but those weren't quite the standards you were referencing. So I'll take the listeners back to kind of the Lego sets of yore. And we know there's a great documentary that used to be on HBO or Max about the history of Lego. And one of the things they talked about was that the castles, the first generation of Lego castles they made, were in yellow. And they did it because they did not want to make gray pieces because they were afraid people, so this was gray as a color in Lego had not been introduced. And they were afraid kids were going to make weapons and tanks and
Mm-hmm.
machines of war with them. And so they made things out of yellow to sort of dissuade that, which is ironic because the yellow castle theme is one of the most nostalgic Lego themes around today. But that was why they did that. And so since then, we know, because Lego has said it multiple times, that they will not make machines of war out of Lego, which is interesting because there definitely needs to be an asterisk on that statement. Because they've
Fantasy toys,
definitely pushed the boundaries a few times. But
cannons.
The most recent example of this was when Lego created a licensed Bell Boeing V-22 Osprey, and they
Which
did so
never
in
was
a
released technically.
correct. They did so in a rescue livery, and so they made the aircraft look like a rescue aircraft. And this aircraft has never been used in a civilian role in that capacity. It's not to say it couldn't, but it is exclusively used by armed forces around the world, predominantly the United States. There
Mm-hmm.
are a few partner nations who also use that aircraft, but they all use it as a form of defense or self defense. And so there were some protesters in Germany who protested Lego making this vehicle. And Lego agreed. And so they actually pulled it from the shelves, which you have to think about how much money at that point Lego
Oh yeah,
lost. And if you go onto Bricklink,
and
you will
they
not
didn't
find it referenced.
they didn't pull it from the shelves though. They just didn't release it. It wasn't out on
Correct.
retail shelf, but some got out. Some did
Yes,
get out, but
because
it
they did
wasn't
do some pre-release
correct.
copies.
They did
And
send them
so,
out to a couple places. Toy stores had them, but they weren't on. It wasn't a recall.
yeah, it is extremely expensive these days if you want to buy it. And you can only get it on like Reddit or eBay, a secondary store not affiliated with Lego, because none of the Lego stores will even acknowledge its existence, which is interesting.
Oh, there's one on
But
StockX right now for $1,000.
nice. Um, just an example of Lego continuing that corporate standard. So Grinch, I talked about a couple of times where Lego has pushed the envelope a little bit. What are some of the times that you can think of that Legos pushed the envelope on some of the that corporate standard of not building war machines? There's one that I know that you mentioned just a few weeks ago, that comes to the top of my mind, but I'll let you share your thoughts first.
I think the most obvious one is Star Wars, and the caveat has always been that it's fantasy based
Hmm.
and it's not really grounded in realism. But they do literally have you know they have tank sets, right? Like Republic gun tank or droid tank or whatever have you tank. They use the word. They're not afraid to shy away from it. I think we talked about weapons too. A modern day revolver in some of the Western sets and specifically the Lone Ranger sets.
Hmm.
Realistic weapons there. Um,
And that got pulled. They stopped producing
they
it because
stopped
it
they
was
stopped
almost too
producing it
realistic.
because it was too
Yeah.
realistic. Correct. And then too,
But
like cannons. I mean, the historical stuff doesn't seem to be an issue there. Um, Although it's ironically, I'd consider World War II historic at this point. So if you did an old Sherman tank, I wouldn't necessarily it's not like an M1 Abrams, right? But I suppose you just have to draw the line somewhere, and they were specifically making these rules because of World War II at the time.
they made a Sop with Camel, and they
Yeah,
made the Red
sure. And
Baron,
I mean, they made the
which
Red Baron, which was a German fighting plane.
from World War One, right?
Right.
So clearly that's okay. Um, Around the same time that they created the brick molded guns for Star Wars, they transitioned away from the microphone blaster, the
Mm,
megaphone blaster,
classic.
which is, yeah, nostalgic. They also created molded weapons that came out, I think, in the first couple of DC sets. And they created like a submachine
Yeah,
gun, like a
there's like a
Tommy
Tommy
gun,
gun. Yeah.
and then they created kind of like a smaller like a pistol, and you'll still see those pistols issued out today, um, in sets.
Hmm.
The Marvel sets will have them, and
Sure.
so they're not overly realistic guns, but a little bit more realistic than what they had created before. The one that still stands out to me, I guess, other than the Sop with Camel and Red Baron, which
Which
I
the Red
think, and
Baron, I'm 90% sure has guns on it. So it's not like they removed
so does the
them.
Sop with
Yeah. Okay. I
Camel,
wasn't
yeah.
sure about that. I knew I have the Red Baron. I'm actually rebuilding it, and I was like, yeah, this has guns on it.
Yeah, and I the Stop with Camel, they did it twice. They've done the set
Mm-hmm.
twice. The one that still surprises me to this day is the Colonel Quaritch, from
Sure.
Avatar, and
Quaritch.
they the Quaritch, yeah. the Way of Water sets, they released him in full kind of digital camouflage fatigues,
It was
which
the first Avatar movie. Don't add us YouTube comments.
thank you, Grinch. Yes,
I'm being that guy.
yes.
Minute mark 3407. It was
Thank
actually
you for doing
Avatar.
that.
Just getting that
Thank
out of
you
the way.
for doing that so the listeners don't have to. Appreciate it. No, issued though in conjunction with the release of the Way of Water movie, Grinch.
Ah,
Um, but yeah,
good
he's in full
clarification.
military fatigues, representing a U.S. service member in the United States Marine Corps. And yes, this is a fantasy version of the United States Marine Corps in the future, in a separate,
On another
universe
planet.
on another planet. But that is the closest we've gotten to military fatigues in Lego,
Uh-huh.
other than maybe the Union soldiers from
Right.
the Cowboy sets and Outlaws sets, and the um oh man, what was
Lone
I just
Ranger.
thinking about? I was thinking Lone Ranger, the Indiana Jones sets with Nazis in them,
No,
and
German
some of their
soldiers.
excuse me,
That's okay.
my apologies.
German soldier number
Well,
1, number 2, number 3, and German fighter
yes,
pilot.
no, they are not listed in Lego as Nazis, but for those of you who have seen the movies, we all know what they are. So
And that's funny too because that was 2005, right? Or 2006 or 7 when those Indiana Jones sets came out.
yeah, but
So,
again, they're referencing an IP,
right,
and it's the IP that has them in it, not the Lego set. And I think that's kind of where they end up drawing the line. Is they're like, well, we're not really doing this. We're just releasing Indiana Jones.
right,
It was Indiana Jones that featured the German soldiers,
right.
not Lego. So
And and I think that's a good distinction too, and a good kind of transition point. And I mean, let's talk about some of the themes, right, that Lego have
yeah,
done currently. What themes are out there that are adult focused?
yeah. So we created a list, and I'm gonna knock out a couple of these real quick, and I'll let you kind of fill in some of the details. But some of the current adult themes that I came up with were icons, botanical, architecture, technic, UCS, ideas. Now, all of these themes are geared towards the 18 plus
Mm-hmm.
set range, or builder range. They are not necessarily the same adult theme in the way that you're
Right,
referencing, right? Because for our listeners who don't necessarily know, right, the botanicals theme itself is an 18 plus theme, which means, and the 18 plus transition really means that this is just geared for adult builders, not necessarily children builders. Doesn't necessarily mean that the content of the set is adult oriented or related, or thematically meant for adults. Although
I'd argue that it thematically kind of is because it
maybe
is, it's more of a like, hey, here's something to put in a vase and put on.
that's
It's
fair. Maybe
marketed, right?
more
It's
from like a
marketed towards,
standards
right,
board perspective.
right.
It's not uh, playing on adult themes
I mean, let's
that
be they're just putting 18 plus on there, so when you go to the store to buy it, you're like, oh, cool. Maybe I can get this because I mean, I can't tell you how many. I mean, it's so funny. We'll talk to our relatives and whatnot, and I was talking to one just a couple months ago, and we have two younger cousins, and I visited and I bought them two Lego sets and got them the Slave One and the Tie Fighter. That this was, I think, last August. Gosh, that was almost a year ago now. But got them two Lego sets, and I remember my my uncle says to me, "Oh man, I mean they're really good. They do the sets that say 14 and up, and they have no problem with it." And I'm like, "Well, do I get into this whole argument about how really that's just marketing? It doesn't really mean anything, even though they're only 8. Like, it's like it really doesn't take. They can do it all by themselves. And so, so I think when they're putting 18 plus on the botanical sets, it's just so when an adult walks in after work or they're picking up a Lego for their kid, they're like, oh, actually that bonsai tree is pretty cool. That would look cool on my desk. Oh, I'm allowed to get it.
Well, and so if you look at like the winter theme, right, the holiday
Yeah,
theme,
perfect
those
example.
sets are now 18 plus. But if you got the original ones, they were not listed as 18 plus sets. So,
Mm-hmm.
and they have some really great building techniques in them, but from a build perspective, they're not complicated builds. So
I mean, some of them
that's
certainly have more difficult techniques, right? And some of them are certainly, I'd say, are more tedious, right? I mean, if you look at like the Eiffel
yeah,
Tower, um, some adults can't even finish that, let alone a little Timmy who's 5 years old and needs to go expend some energy. Um,
right, right. There's and they do different things too. Like the instructions are there's more pieces for every page or every step,
mhm.
and you might put together something complex first and then attach that later, and so there's definitely a little bit more complexity there. But which of these themes, Grinch, in your opinion, really touches on the adult themes that you were kind of referencing? So those hard PG-13, hard, maybe I'm gonna say soft rated R, right? Because rated
Yeah.
R can be tough. I think it's fair to say Lego is never gonna do anything that would be construed as sexually explicit or pushing any sort of those boundaries, right? Um, there might be some people who would argue that maybe some of the more well, no, I don't even want to go there. So I don't think
Yeah.
they're ever going to do anything that's along those lines.
Well, and that was something I was gonna actually mention. Like, I don't think we're gonna get like Lego Saw, for example. You can cut off his arm.
I mean, we're getting Lego Jaws, and Jaws was not a rated R movie, but it's about a shark that eats people. So
I think
Jurassic Park famously featured a T
right.
Rex splitting a dude, or the second one featured a T Rex splitting a dude in half. So
So,
it's not like some of this content.
since we're on it, I'd like to talk about it real quick. I don't think Lego will ever do like a Saw, right?
Sure.
And I say that facetiously, but also seriously, because part of Lego is they want kids to come into their store and play, and they do a ton of merchandising with their sets. I mean, they rely heavily on merchandising with their set images, right? The features and how they display it, how they put it on shelf, the box art, like putting it in a display and putting it in the front of the retail store, right? So that like when you're walking by the Lego store in the mall and you see this giant Eiffel Tower, you're like, holy crap, let's go look at that. That looks really cool. Or you see this giant Titanic, which again probably a more adult focused set. So I think they're going to want their stores to be welcoming to kids. So I imagine if they went to a adult theme, they would probably maybe make it an online exclusive and have a separate website. I really don't think that they'd put it in their stores at all. I think they'd have a checklist of like, hey, we're doing Alien Lego or Predator Lego, or those are the type of themes I'm thinking of. And Jaws kind of was another reason I was inspired to suggest this conversation today, because that sets right around the corner. Um,
Oh,
I
I
know
can't
I know
wait.
it's PG, but if it was re-released today, it'd probably be PG-13 and maybe even R if they throw a couple F
Was
bombs in
it
there.
PG?
Yeah, but it's in the 70s when I mean it's because of the blood. Yeah,
Yeah, but the standings and rating board were pretty harsh back then
yeah,
too.
that's fair. It could. Yeah, I honestly always thought it was rated R, but it's actually only PG. I don't think PG-13 existed back then.
So what if Lego did this, right? You mentioned Disney Plus and The Simpsons.
Hmm.
Disney, for a long time, partners with other film studios or has sort of sub-branded film studios that
Hmm.
releases movies that you wouldn't see with like a Disney
Well,
logo.
20th Century Fox, right? When they bought 20th Century
Right.
Fox, they bought literally Alien.
So if Disney is able to kind of own and show off some of those things, right, in a separate corporate structure, could Lego not create like a separate company effectively,
Mm-hmm.
like a sub company, and release very like aliens predator themes based off of using that vehicle rather than the traditional Lego brand? I mean, you could literally rebrand it as something different. Don't even have to call it Lego. You use Lego pieces. Lego still owns the company. Like, what do you
Right.
think are the chances of something like that eventually happening?
How far do you think it's a curious thought because I feel like my mind's spinning. Kind of my thought with originally was, hey, we have a separate website where it's like adults only.
Exactly.
What's your
Yep.
birthday? Enter here, and it's still Lego. It's just they're not going to put it in the stores, online only,
Yep.
direct to consumer. But I
But that
think
makes sense, right? Because you're selling it to adults, and so adults don't need to go to the store to buy it. They could
right.
just like Lego could save a lot of money off of something like that.
And I think though, like if they go with a whole different branding, do you even brand the bricks differently and put a different logo on the brick? Because
Yeah.
then if dad's got his Lego over here, or we'll call it Ego with AEGO, adult Lego Ego, not the waffles. We're calling it Ego. If dad's got his
Hmm.
Ego over here and little Timmy has got his Lego over here, and the bricks get mixed up, it's like, oh well, that's an adult piece. Like that's part of the adult set. That's not Lego. That's
Yeah.
Ego. That's why there's that printed blood piece over here.
I think going back to the corporate values that you shared from the beginning, I don't think it's ultimately very possible.
I don't know. I don't think it is either at the end of the day, but I think we might see them push the bound. I mean, because you could argue, going back to like their current adult themes, they are trying to reach out to adults more, but they're doing it more based off of nostalgia, right? Like
Right.
Hocus Pocus idea set.
But so from that perspective, though, I don't think Aliens is off the table.
Really.
I don't. The first movie, what was the rating on the first movie?
Pete. Well, Pete, it was the '80s though, so.
I
Or
know,
actually,
but
sorry. Hold on. Grinch. Timestamp 4644. It was 1979. It was rated R, I believe.
though I could see that totally as like an icon set, like a one-off icon
I mean,
set.
look at Dune, right?
Yeah, I mean Dune. Yeah, a great example. So we talked through some of the current adult themes and the ones where they're, some of the ones we talked about like UCS, right, which isn't itself a theme, but
It's more of a
um,
style, right?
right. We talked about Technic, right? They certainly have some adult sets in Technic.
It was
Certainly
rated
not
R. It
pushing
was
any.
rated R.
Fair enough. Certainly not pushing any standards boards things with
Mm-hmm.
Technic, right? We talk about architecture and botanical. Icons and ideas are really the two Lego themes, the vehicles Lego has for pushing out sets
Right.
that kind of push the boundary on what seems right, right? Like the Dune Ornithopter came out in Icons. It's sort of a one-off. The Titanic came out in Icons, which I was always sort of surprised about because the Titanic story,
It's
I
pretty
know it's a very
tragic.
famous ship. Yeah, but it wasn't like it lived a long life and then sank. It sank right away. Like
Mm-hmm.
it was a little surprising to me that they made that as a ship. I don't know what else they could make, but they're doing the Explorer, the Arctic exploring ship as a set
Mm-hmm.
that they're releasing this year. I wonder, and they've done things like the Pirates sets, and so I'd be curious to see if they would ever do like older warships from like the 15 and 1600s.
Yeah.
For our English listeners, something like the HMS Victory would be super cool in Lego. It's this like multiple story gunboat. It had 3 gun decks on it. It's England's pride and joy. You get to go, and it's still available to go see. It's still floating in the
What a
Portsmouth Naval
beautiful ship,
Dockyards.
huh?
Are you looking at it?
Yeah.
Dude, it's you can still go walk the deck now. It's incredible to go see. That thing made out of Lego would be pretty insane.
I
The
could see them. That's the direction I think that they would go
Yeah,
for adults, right? It'd be more of the nerdy, historical, like a child's not going to have any interest in this because they've done something similar to this already, right? I mean,
right.
just looking at
The
Pirates of the Caribbean or Castle or have what have
Exactly.
or sorry, not Castle, but Pirates, what have you.
The American equivalency to this, in my mind, would be the USS Constitution, which would be the ship that I think would be our equivalency of that,
I don't
right?
I don't think that. Okay, wait. I was thinking it was a battleship. Sorry, 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 sorry.
No, no, it's not like the USS Iowa or anything
Right.
like that. So another older uh, wind-powered vessel uh, that is still kept up. You can go and visit it now. It's actually uh, part of the National Park Service and located in Boston. But that would be something that I could expect to see
Yeah. Or
in
I
like an
could see
icon
like a
form.
one-off ironclad from the Civil War to commemorate what is it? It's like the 150th or sorry, not 100, like 250th anniversary coming up. No, I'm an
Potentially,
idiot.
yeah.
150th.
Although I still think that maybe is a little bit too touchy of a subject, but
We've got Union soldiers though. I mean, because the ironclad was a Union ship, right?
well, ironclads were used by both
Okay, well
sides,
you'd make it
but
a Union one then.
yeah, fair
I
enough.
guess it'd have to be like the 100 and probably 75th, right? Anniversary ish, 160, something random like that. We 150 is
Yeah.
already passed, but I digress. I could see them maybe doing something pretty random like that. Um, but kind of reeling us back in, I mean, would you consider Lord of the Rings, Indiana Jones? I mean, and I mean, I was in like first grade, and when we saw Lord of the Rings in theaters, like our parents took us, and I guess some people would say, I guess I was in second grade. Some people would say like, no, I was in first. Some people would say like, no, you should have done that. It was PG-13, but I mean, gosh, I love that movie, and I mean, Smeagol gave me nightmares. Um, but I mean, remember, we got Indiana Jones when it was re-released on VHS, and like that was the first time we saw
Yeah.
it, and that was, I think that was before um, Lord of the Rings came out. I mean, that was in you know very early 2000s, late 90s. So these are PG-13 movies that, although they're PG-13, like a lot of kids still see them. So would you consider those adult themes?
Um, I would, but at the same time too, right? Indiana Jones is PG-13,
Mm-hmm.
if not even PG. I have to go back and check. You've been doing all the research this episode. Appreciate it. The movie heavily implies, I mean, there's violence, right? You literally, I'm thinking of like that famous scene from the Raiders of the Lost Ark where Indiana Jones, the guy comes out with the saber in the crowd,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a great scene. Indiana he just pulls his revolver out and like shoots him right in the middle of
Right.
the audience, and just sort of like this funny juxtaposition of like old age versus new age, if you will. And he's just kind of like, what's the big like okay, cool. But there's also scenes that heavily imply, like heavily imply is maybe a strong word, but imply a degree of like maybe he and Miriam had sex on the boat at one point.
Oh,
So
oh no, no, no. It goes way deeper than that. Like she was underage. It's a whole thing.
no, not in the movie.
Yeah. No, no, not in real life. But like in the movie, because she says in
She's
Raiders
a
of the Lost Ark,
bartender.
I just rewatched all of them, and in later Raiders of the Lost, not yeah, Raiders of the Lost Ark. By the way, they're rated PG, which is kind of shocking for some reason. She says I was just a girl, and if you do the math on their age, she's like 16 at the time when they first like when him and Ravenwood, her father, like were like he knew her father and they were teaming up, and she was like I was just a girl, and he's like. Anyways, moving on.
I think
It's like
there's
this
more
whole
member
thing.
fair. Although that doesn't necessarily imply that there was anything untoward occurred at that age. So I think what she was saying or referencing was more of like he broke her heart and she's like, I was just a girl, like I didn't know any better. Not necessarily like you took advantage of me physically. I think more emotionally
I,
is what she's referencing. But
I'm just telling because when they canceled. So I just rewatched all the Indiana Jones last summer because of the new release of Lego and then Dial of Destiny.
right.
And when they canceled the Temple of Doom because it was not culturally appropriate in this day and age. I was looking into like all the issues with Indiana Jones because I was like, to me, I was like, I don't understand why it's not. And then I rewatched it. I'm like, okay, I guess. Um, whatever. Damn. Not whatever. I mean, it's obviously a serious subject, but you know,
Well, I mean, there's brown face, they're kind of
Charlie
glossing
Martine. And then he, I mean, it's yeah. There's some issues with it, right? But it was produced at a different time, and it's meant
yeah.
for a different audience. But as I was looking into all that, it is a whole thing that she was a minor.
Yeah. I don't know. I
I'm
think
gonna send
Reddit's
you.
maybe
I'm gonna
working a
send you.
little too hard.
Nope, it's not Reddit. Like this is like pretty good like Wall Street Journal and stuff. I'll send you some links.
Okay. Send those to me. What's also interesting too, though, is like Lego did the Speed Champions James Bond, right? And they
Right,
created this James
perfect,
Bond
perfect
minifigure.
example.
So clearly there is a line that they can cross, but at the same time too, we're not getting James Bond sets, you
Right,
know, which which is
Fast and the
fair to
Furious.
some extent. But yeah, Fast and the Furious. So
Another movie that we saw in 2001 at the age that we were at the time and in theaters with our parents.
wow, yeah. Anyways,
I'm getting the idea though that just based off of this conversation, Lego is sticking to more well-known IPs, right? I mean, classic. I mean, or sorry, not Indiana Jones. James Bond at this point, like that was something that we did growing up. We'd watch on holidays, right? They did a James Bond marathon. We were
yeah.
off on Christmas break, so we watched. I mean, that was just these things are a little bit more established, and I'd say a little bit safer within our culture and on what's
Well,
accepted, right?
even the older movies were rated PG and were the newest ones are still PG-13.
And
So,
and the
and
James Bond set was based off of Sean Connery, right? Or was
no,
it?
it was
No, it was
Daniel
Daniel Craig.
Craig.
It was Dan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
But when they do dip their toes into the theme, they're not doing anything overly controversial.
Right.
Here's an Aston Martin DB5,
Right.
and we're gonna put. I mean, I still think it's amazing that we have Daniel Craig in a minifigure form, but like he doesn't even have like a pistol.
Right.
His weapon of choice is a wrench in the set, if
To
you could
fix
even
his
call it a
to fix his
weapon.
tar. I thought they always included an accessory with it, right?
They do,
To
right?
like fix
So
his
that you
car.
can. Well, you do it so you can pop out the wheels,
Right. 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 God, the Lego
the
system's
whatever
awesome.
rims you use.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but also to fix the number of wrenches I have in my set collection now is almost equal to the stud shooters. um, no, so they definitely when they do engage in those IPs that are maybe a little bit borderline, I think they do so very carefully,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you're not getting a scene from Casino Royale with Eva Green and Daniel Craig, recovering from
From a night
his
out.
or you don't get the scene of Daniel Craig getting tortured by Lashif where he's
It's
on the
just
chair.
it's just him in a buildable chair, and then he's just got a mace in the other hand, and you're like,
He's just it's an all
with
tan minifigure.
Lego torture action.
press a button and this thing comes out of the floor and hits the bottom of the chair.
The lifestyle photos and like videos are
Uh,
just some dude just like
it's just somebody hitting the button over and over again and like laughing to themselves.
yeah, no, no, no.
uh,
That's not this.
so, anyways, there's definitely a boundary that they won't cross.
So I think we will. If I were to be a betting man here and kind of call my shot, I think we would see.
Yeah, call your
I
shot, dude.
I think Lego is already um, venturing in this direction a little bit, right? They're pushing the boundaries very gently, right? You mentioned they didn't come out with a full wave of James Bond. They did a Speed Champion set. Like they tucked it into an already established theme and they made it an accent. And I don't I didn't hear any uproar from anybody about the inclusion of James Bond, right? They are getting
Yeah,
more established with adults. I think when they do look for these nostalgic or adult themes, they look for more of the nostalgia, you know, I would argue an Atari is an adult theme because a 5 to 14-year-old has probably never seen one in their life, right? They're not going to want to go pick that up. So I think instead of saying an adult theme as in a rated R theme, the adult focus is certainly coming out, and I think they'll continue to kind of expand that way. I won't go as far
yeah.
as you and say they're going to do Lego Alien, though.
Well, I could see a xenomorph like in Lego form. Um, I don't know. Like it's a horror theme. It would be interesting. I don't. Maybe it's like an icons of cinema theme or something, and it's
Mm-hmm.
not. You don't show it like decapitating somebody or like a face hugger on somebody. But
I'm gonna look something up while you talk here.
sure.
Yeah.
What I think, as we already talked about, I think the two vehicles for these themes, or some of the major vehicles for these themes, are going to be icons and ideas. And as people push stuff out into those two different venues, right? Icons internally through Lego and ideas through the fan base. I think we'll see more and more of these sets kind of come to fruition that are going to continue to kind of push the boundary. And then, like you said, I think we'll start to see them sort of nestled into themes that are already existent. The car theme is certainly a very easy one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, the icons theme, I was just thinking about like how like the Concorde, right, is this gorgeous new airplane they've created, and they have done airplanes in the past. They've created the Boeing 787 a few years ago, and then they've done the Sopwith Camel and the uh, Red Baron, right, the Fokker F1. So
Mm-hmm.
we could see more iconic aircraft being created in Lego, right? The one that I was thinking about during our conversation was like the Bell X1. That was the aircraft that broke the sound barrier. It is an Air Force airplane, but it was the first aircraft recorded to going faster than the speed of sound. It's in the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum.
Sure.
I think you could see that in Lego. I think Lego would be a really great medium for that. And if they were to continue on like an Icons of Flight theme, that one would be one I would almost expect to see,
And they did
right?
a
Whereas
Boeing
like
777, right, at one point too.
the
Or Dream,
787,
is that the
the
Dreamliner?
Dreamliner,
Yeah.
yeah. So certainly they're okay with civilian aircraft,
Right.
but although like we mentioned, they have dipped their toes into military aircraft too in the past.
I
When
wonder,
the
was that plane branded with Air Force?
It was very lightly painted on. I mean, it was orange and it had
Right.
the American
I can
logo
pic I
with
can
the
picture it in my
star.
head. Yeah.
And I think, if I remember correctly, Air Force in black lettering and small black lettering was written on the tail. So it wasn't
Okay.
prominent.
My guess
And
is
so,
they wouldn't because of that.
well, or they would omit the sticker.
But
You know
then
what I
you're not
mean? Like you
necessarily
just,
covering the thing, right?
well, I think that would be a way that Lego could have it both ways. They could call it the Bell X1. And
So,
maybe they don't even put the U.S. Air Force like the star and circle logo on it, and they just make it
mhm.
orange, and they could call it. I mean, Chuck Yeager famously wrote and called it the glamorous Glen, or oh man, I don't think it was Glamorous Land, but let me look that up real quick. But anyways, I think they could do it without overly indulging in like the Air Force side of it.
Right.
So
So if they created a Saw series and they didn't include Jigsaw, it'd be okay because he's the guy that murders everybody. So therefore, everything else is fine.
it was the Glamorous Glennis. So for
Okay.
those of
Okay.
you correcting the record. But anyways,
So I
so what are
looked
some of the cons? Oh,
while I
sorry. Go
while
ahead.
I was looking at something really quick because and PSA, fun fact, how whatever the heck you want to call this, tip and trick, whatever. If you ever want to submit a Lego Ideas set, go to the website, Lego Ideas, whatever, go to submit an idea, and the first thing you have to do is you have to enter what your idea is based off of, and if it's on intellectual property, and just double check if whatever you're producing isn't on that list. You just start typing and then it has to fill out the suggestions and you just click on it. And so, for example, I did a Valorant set and I spent a year. Like, I made it, I remade it, I edited it, I sat on it for a year, I had it all ready to go, and I went to submit it. And the first thing you do is you have to type in what your IP is. And I said Valorant, and it just said, this isn't accepted. And I was just like, are you kidding? I even emailed them to be like, any reconsideration? Like, you did Overwatch, like this isn't that far off. I was trying to give them like a couple of like tidbits about. I was like, Valorant has the largest esports following, and it's won esports of the year twice in a row, and it has the largest female gamer following too. I went all out on it, right, trying to get them to like buy into the idea, and they're like, sorry, dude. And so I looked up Alien just now on Lego Ideas. And it says we've already evaluated this IP and have determined that we cannot allow submissions based on it because it's, and then it gives you the reason, and it just says inappropriate. So
Okay.
I think
Fair.
this is a good way to base like, okay, would they ever do it, right? And I wish they'd give us a little bit more information on the inappropriateness because it's not necessarily overly violent. It's more of disturbing violence, right? Like I know
The
something pops out of some, but it's not like Saving Private Ryan opening like Beach of Omaha scene, right? It's more of a
yeah,
disturbing type of violence, right? A gore and
there's more gore in the follow-on movies, so there's definitely it gets a
the
little bit more
IP,
aggressive.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. What does it say for James Bond? Do you still have it up?
Let me check. James Bond. IP's not allowed. Oh, interesting. It just says current third party overlap because they already have. Obviously, one of the rules is you can't do a theme that is currently on shelf.
So there you go.
Yeah.
Interesting. But I'm curious. I'm curious how that would play out. But maybe they have more in store for the James Bond franchise, which would be neat. I mean, the set's still, I think, on the market. So
And Simpsons is allowed, as we know.
interesting.
So
Grinch, do you have anything else about the adult themes that you'd like to touch on before we move into some of the cons of the adult themes?
I have just a question for you. What do you
Okay.
think? If the rumor is true of The Simpsons, what do you think the next quote unquote new adult theme that pushes the boundary will be? And we can come back to it. You can think about it because I got to think about my
Hmm.
answer too. I'm asking this live because I wanted a raw reaction. I want you to come and say, "Well, I pulled some notes and I'm gonna present my thesis to you." We wanted it to be more off the cuff, so you think of one and I'll think of one, and we'll revisit it before we move on with the conversation. Okay?
Okay. Sounds good.
So, so we wanted to talk about some cons, right? And then maybe go into some
Yeah.
potential expansions. So, cons, very specialized. That you do start. I mean, movies themselves push for a PG rating, right? I mean, they push for, or sorry, PG-13, just because when it's rated R, it just doesn't do as well as PG-13
Well,
because your
yeah,
audience is smaller.
right, right, and even if it doesn't necessarily deserve the rating, there's implications, right?
Hmm.
Like you're gonna get parents who are like, "Well, we don't want our kids to go see that movie because it's
Right.
rated R." You know, how many times did we have to fight to go see a movie that was maybe rated R for reasons that our parents were okay with, but
Which was
you know,
really
they still didn't
violence. They
want.
were okay with violence.
Yes.
But being intimate and loving people was not okay. So
Right, right.
I am the way I
Yeah.
am because I was raised this way.
So no, they are very specialized, right? And so like take the Jaws set for example. What other version of Jaws could you do if it's not just like the boat and the shark? You know, like it would be
Jaws
hard.
3, The Revenge, where the shark travels from Maine all the way down to the Bahamas to hunt down the Brady.
Jaws 3 took place in the theme park. You're thinking of like
Oh,
there's
Jaws
like a
4, The Revenge. I'm sorry. There you go. Good call.
yeah.
That was Jaws 3D.
Yeah,
That was
that was
Dennis
awful.
Quaid too.
Jaws 2 was the one that took place
That was
again,
still
and I think
Amity Island. Yeah,
Jaws 2 had the helicopter,
it had the
if I remember.
spoiler alert. It had they
The pipe,
electrocuted it
the
at the
electric
end.
pipe.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking you could do like, you know, maybe like a beach with like those old changing stations or
It's one
whatever,
bad
and
hat,
then
Harry.
but you know what I mean? Like there isn't a ton of like expansion off of the
Yeah.
theme other than the one ship, the boat, and then the boat, as we say. And so I think that is definitely one of the things that keeps Lego from really expanding into these themes.
Hmm.
The other one that I wanted to mention was price tag fatigue.
I don't think
We
they care
talked
about that
about,
at all.
well, I think they're going to start. I think,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
you
for
know,
sure.
the adult theme itself has really grown with Lego, but we're starting to see more and more people kind of call this out as a problem.
Hmm.
So I already mentioned it in a past podcast, but High Tea Toys, a channel on YouTube about Lego, um, did an episode where the channel host talked at length about their own fatigue with price tag, and which was totally fair. We did a whole episode about collection fatigue, which we mentioned price as one of
And
the
we did a
big
whole
issues
price
there too.
valuation thing of what putting
Right.
some data behind it of
And seeing
it's
more expensive sets
right.
made. And
It's not that it's more expensive for the Lego itself. It's just that there's more $300, $200 sets.
right. And so as we start to see more of these interesting sets being created, right? It's just they cost money, and
Hmm.
it does wear you out. And then I think the next question that I have is to what end, right? Like where does Lego stop with this? Because
Right.
I think that's both a good and a bad thing. But Lego could continue this for a long, long time. But you know, there's got to be a point where they continue to work on their own themes and then continue with some of their more established evergreen IPs that they've been working with historically. Harry Potter, Star Wars, you know, those kind of things. So
I did want to give one shout out too, or just call out that we kind of missed, but arguably Stranger Things with that first season was pretty dark. I mean, later seasons it gets a little bit more, and I don't mean it this way, but like a little more fun, right? Like it's a little bit more
mhm.
energetic, a little bit more campy, a little bit more teenage drama sort of fun. Whereas but that first season was pretty dark with the Demogorgon, and they made a Demogorgon. So I'd argue that, you
See, it's funny that like something like that's okay, but then like aliens is not. You
right,
know what I mean?
right, yeah. So I think too, like with streaming, I was actually thinking about this just yesterday. Like things are going to streaming and they're not like because I was thinking, Lego could just say, well, anything rated R's are cut off. Like that could be their new kind of standard going forward. But then like with streaming, it's like, well, it's not rated R, it's rated TVMA, and
Right.
and then you have something that was because I was rewatching The Walking Dead that came out on public TV. It was on AMC. I don't know. I guess cable, and it was censored. But then they have a uncensored version that if you watch on streaming or if you watch the DVD of, they drop like 5 F-bombs in the fifth season, and
Yeah.
you don't even know. So like it's the line starting to get pretty messy, right? The more and more. So
Yeah.
I think in general they'll play it safe.
Well, in the standards review board, and this is not on topic for our episode at all, but I'll leave it with this, has always been problematic within Hollywood, right? Because, and it has changed over the years,
Mhm.
but like years ago, you couldn't even like it was illegal for a movie to show like an interracial couple kissing. Like that was something that they
You
would
mean
screen.
decades ago too,
Yes.
not
Yeah.
years. Just to clarify, it's
No.
2024.
Well, yes.
Well, it was
But
Star
yeah,
Trek, right? Was the famously
the first time they
yeah.
showed, yeah, a couple kissing like that. And so, there's been limitations on same sex couples. There's been limitations on like what is appropriate, what isn't. Certainly, when you get into some more of the avant-garde type of things, right? Like there's the famous difference, like what is the difference between like art and pornography at some point if what you're displaying is like done in a tasteful and artful way. And
I'm laughing because you know what the old saying is.
right, I can't describe
I
it, but
can't
I can
describe
tell
it,
you
but I
when I
could
see
tell you
it.
when I see it. Yeah.
Right. And so there's there's a lot of controversy with the standards and review board here in the United States and its historical impact on Hollywood. And
Mhm.
so I'm sure as we mature ourselves in the period of time that we will be alive, we are going to see a lot of differences.
Sure.
And I think part of it is, like you mentioned, something like streaming, where things are just available now.
Mhm.
It's a lot harder to keep those type of films outside of, you know, access to kids. I know you can put passwords on like Netflix accounts and you can create children's and
Oh,
adult accounts and
dude,
stuff.
could you imagine growing up like now with Netflix, like all those rated like we never were able to watch like The Matrix, but all our friends did. Like we just go on HBO Max
Yeah.
now and just be like, at night, just grab your phone and just be like, okay, cool, I'm gonna watch Matrix.
But like how did like it does it's definitely interesting.
Back in the
I
day,
have
we
a
had to
young
sneak the Blockbuster video on the bottom of the stack and hope our dad didn't notice as we were checking out. That's how we got Call of Duty 4. Remember?
yeah. So there's definitely some interesting connections there. So
Hmm.
but Grinch, you asked a question a few minutes
Correct.
ago about
Yeah.
potential expansion. So do we want to say it on three, or do we want to just say
You
kind
go
of
ahead
what?
and say yours because I might actually bring up a little bit more conversation with mine because it's kind of interesting.
Okay, I don't know, man. This is the first thing that came to my mind, so I'm not
Oh,
trying
oh
to overly think
God.
about it.
Why is there a disclaimer beforehand?
Just because you might go, oh well, that's dumb. Like, let me just say it. Family Guy. I could maybe see something like Family Guy,
Interesting.
and I just say it because of how much it's ingrained in our culture, right? Like, yes, was there very adult themes in Family Guy? Yes. But was there a lot of funny things in Family Guy that didn't necessarily take on adult related themes? Yes. And it did it push the boundaries of The Simpsons? It did. Did it go as like bad as South Park? No. So what does Lego have to say about Family Guy?
Not allowed on Lego Ideas, anyways. Um,
Fair enough.
no, I
What did
think
you think?
yeah. I
Or
wonder.
sorry, let's talk Family Guy real quick.
It's kind of a shame because with Lego Dimensions, they did a lot of one-off things with
Mhm.
Dimensions. Like they had Portal, they had Beetlejuice, they had
Well,
E.T.
that was a Beetlejuice was a kid
No, I
show.
know, I
So was
know, I
E.T.
know, but it seemed like we maybe would get some more of these one. I could see like a Family Guy, like a Peter Griffin
Like a CMF almost.
dimension, like a dimension
Yeah.
set where it's not. necessarily. It's a C tier Lego product at the time, and they're just kind of throwing it in there. And I mean, they did Lego Adventure Time and Lego Ideas, right?
Yeah, which like, wasn't an adult cartoon, but it had some very. It
Mm-hmm.
was definitely
It was like a
well,
stoner cartoon.
yeah. Was that on Cartoon Network and on
I think so. I never actually watched Adventure Time. I know Chris and me. That's fine. But so yeah, I mean, I could see Family Guy. The one I thought of two, and the first one I thought of, the reason I thought of two is because the first one I thought about, I was like, well, I don't know if this counts, but so I'll save that one for last. I was gonna say Hunger
okay.
Games, only because I've heard a rumor of them coming out with more books and and potentially more movies, and I could maybe see in
Yeah.
like 5 years them like trying to touch it. And the movie was, I think, a lot more toned back compared to the books, but I think
Yeah.
you could make that argument about a couple of things too,
Not
right?
by much. Not by much, but yeah. And
Not allowed on Lego Ideas, by the way.
Hunger Games.
Hmm.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, I mean the topic is literally just kids killing each other, so I could see why Lego maybe stays clear of that one, but I could also see maybe them re I can still see that as like a CMF, like a Katniss Everdeen CMF, you know? Like that
Right,
would be hugely popular.
right,
But I think yeah, I don't know. Think of how much Lego leaves on the table, like how much they turn away.
yeah. I mean,
It's pretty insane.
it's almost it's good for them though, because you can always, well,
Yeah.
let's go test the waters with this and see if it unlocks a whole new area for us, right?
Well, yes, that, but it's also good for them too because I think it keeps them sharp. I
Sure.
think if they were to open themselves up to just do everything, it would lose a lot of its luster
It allows
and
them to be a little bit
specialized.
progressive too, right? On
Yeah.
like on setting their own moral standards and helping
Mhm.
establish that, which I think is obviously important, especially with kids.
So what was your other one?
The other one was Fortnite, and then I was like, oh well, they just came out with the video game Lego Fortnite, but it's not
Yeah.
traditional Fortnite because the reason I was thinking about that was because of Hunger Games. I'm like, well, Fortnite because like it's literally battle royales, the Hunger Games,
Hmm.
and so, but then that one's not allowed on ideas, but it's because it's a current third party overlap because of the Lego Fortnite. But I don't know. I wonder. I've never played it because I'm like I'm too old for Fortnite. I just don't
Yeah.
care. And so, but I game like I still play Counter Strike and Valorant, but like,
The video games one is touchy, right? Because like we
right,
know something like Call of Duty would be a absolute no-go, but something like um
Overwatch,
right, you'd be I just a little surprised with. So
which Overwatch is not. Let me look up Overwatch real quick because it's not allowed, and it says current third party overlap. So I wonder if there's a my guess is they still have the license for it, and they're just not producing sets.
yeah. Well, I mean, how popular is Overwatch these days?
Overwatch 2 is dead, pretty much. Like,
Um,
yeah.
so
So,
um
do you want
yeah, just
to?
final thought.
Yeah, you want to leave us with some final thoughts, Wes? He's
Sorry, I was about to say
smiling and
no.
laughing.
I know I think we've talked about it already, right? I think there's been a lot of expansion of some interesting adult themes. I think there's plenty of reasons why we don't see adult themes in the future, but certain adult themes, but I think it's important for Lego to continue honoring their own corporate strategy
Sure.
and their own corporate standards. And it's something that I think I really appreciate about the company. Like we just said, Lego is probably leaving quite a bit of money on the table by not engaging in some of these different themes and IPs, and maybe not a ton, right?
Hmm.
Because they are. So here's the thing, right? We never even talked about the reality of this. It's a toy,
Right.
and they sell toys to adults who enjoy them, who use them for creative pursuits, or who enjoy building them out of nostalgia, nostalgic reasons.
Now
But
to
at the
play
end of the
devil's
day,
advocate, an action figure's a toy, and you can go buy a Ripley versus Xenomorph action figure battle pack.
yep. But how popular are action figures within like Lego is thinking long term,
Mm-hmm.
and they're thinking,
They're
I think
establishing a
so.
brand standard, right, of what they want to
Yeah,
represent.
like a xenomorph action figure is going to
Uh-huh.
be important to a young child for such a small period of their life, where they're young enough where they still like action figures, but they're old enough to have seen Alien,
Right.
right? Whereas Lego can be a part of your entire life.
And probably
And
only sold at something stupid like Hot Topic.
yeah, what not hot? What was the other one that did
Spencer's.
like Spencer's? Yeah, or
Yeah.
like those old record stores like Tower City Records or something.
FYE.
Um,
Sam
yeah.
Goody. Yeah.
Anyways, Grinch, what about you? What do you think?
I I'm okay with the current state of Lego and adultness. I mean, like you
Yeah.
said, it's a toy. They're trying to establish their own brand, or they have an established brand, not trying to establish their own brand. But what I would like to say, and I want to avoid any price, you know, biases that pop into your head or price notions that pop into your head. I'd like to just see them focus on more adult focus sets where they already are dabbling. For example, we got the kind of architecture style the Hogwarts ground castle, right? The nanoscale
Mm,
one, not the one with the nanoscale figures. I'm talking about the full castle that was just released last year. I love that set. I would love to see a Minas Tirith in that same style, right?
yeah.
And you could argue that's an adult set because of the more you know utility with the set. It's a display model like the display models I have back here. Like I like how Lego's doing that, and I'd like to see them do more of that for the adult focus versus an adult IP. So
Yeah.
I'm okay with the current state of it. Would I like to see them test the boundaries? I'm going to say yes, but I don't know what that is. I'd like to see them maybe take a more adult mindset on some of their IP, or like I would wish they would bring back like the ninjas from 1999 and 2001. That sub theme of castle that they did. I'd rather see that versus a Ninjago that's a little bit more eccentric and silly and out there. I'd like to see maybe something grounded in reality. um, but I think that's the direction I'd like to see them go.
Yeah. Fair enough. But an important note, nothing that you mentioned was pushing any sort of boundaries of, again, something that I think a standard or ethics review board would have issues with.
And as
So,
I was actually gonna say I'd like to see them push boundaries, but I don't know what boundaries they push. I wouldn't buy a Hunger Games set necessarily. I
yeah.
also wouldn't buy a Family Guy set because like, what's the what are they gonna do, like a UCS Peter Griffin? Like,
So here's one for you.
okay, hit me.
Would Lego ever depict nudity if, for example, it was associated with like classic art, architecture, or something in that capacity?
Do you mean
Something that I think
genitalia, or like,
well, yeah, I don't just mean like a
or
belly
like
button.
no?
Yeah,
I think if they did, let's say they came out with an ancient Greek theme, I think they'd make a statue and they'd have a dress, just a white dress over a marble dress over covering,
they're not gonna do like a Virginia state flag with like
with one boob
like a
hanging out. No,
titty hanging out. Yeah,
no. I did look
that's
at.
fair.
There's some guy on YouTube Shorts that does like maps that'll change your mind, and it's like, here's all the U.S. flags that have nudity, all the U.S. states that have nudity in their flag, and it's just Virginia. We're from Virginia, so we can rip on Virginia.
I mean, hey, it's Lady Liberty, and she
There,
is spearing tyranny in the back,
that's
like
right.
with a tit hanging out.
She's
She's a badass.
celebrating her womanhood, and that's okay.
She's a badass queen.
So
So
slay, girl, slay. No,
literally,
yes, slay tyranny. So I think
uh,
I think it, we kind of came to a consensus on they don't necessarily need to, right? They don't need
Yeah.
and that's the beautiful thing about Lego is it's you can do what you want with it after the fact, right? You just need the bricks to go build what you want, and there's a thriving mock scene out there. So if you want to build a replica of the Virginia state flag, then by all means go right ahead. So, um, and
Oh,
with
I
that,
love it. Yeah, let's press. Let's move on.
we'll move on because we're going to go
This
down
is
some
gonna get
real rap. This is called AFOLs Welcome for a reason, folks. So maybe I need to put a
yeah.
disclaimer at the beginning of this episode. So
What are we building?
what are we building this week? West, what did you build?
I haven't built anything this week. I did buy in the same order that I got your Mercedes two pack in.
Mm-hmm.
I also got the Aston Martin two pack for myself,
Ah,
and I'm
nice.
excited to see and build both the pace car. And we've talked about all this in the past. What I like about the pace car is not the pace car itself because it looks great. I'm going to totally remove the light bar. It's how they did the front of the Aston Martin, which I like better than the previous AMR GT3 from the
Mm-hmm.
previous Aston Martin two pack that used the horns to do the curve in the front, which looked good at the time. But now that you look back at it, it kind of looks silly. Is not like a great word because it's not. I feel like that's almost like insulting to the designer. I think it was a really good design at the time. I think the new air intake on the new Aston Martin looks a lot better. And so I almost want to see how easy that would be to replicate in the AMR GT3, the same sort of thing. So it would take away a little bit from the build, but those are just really cool looking cars to get in Lego. So that'll be really fun to have. And on that one, there's a few designers online on YouTube who have done limited stickers on it to show you like, hey, you could just turn this thing into like a street car pretty quickly. You just don't put like the pace car sticker on it. So I'm excited to do that and build those out. And the F1 cars are always great. They're complicated builds. This one looks a lot like the McLaren. There are some distinct differences,
Mm-hmm.
but it'll be fun to have two high-end race cars in the same year built out. So that'll be really fun. That's what I'm looking forward to building. Grinch, how
Nice.
about you?
You love your speed champions.
I
Um,
do.
I built I was pretty busy this week actually building my Lego displays. We have a brick mail later who was asking about displaying. Um, so I'll kind of talk more about those then and kind of follow up to that question. So I was working on those, but I did build half of the detective's office and just a really enjoyable build so far. I've been really enjoying that modular. So I've just been kind of savoring it, doing piece by piece, kind of doing like I just haven't had a lot of time this past week, so I've been doing like 10 pages a night sort of deal, just kind of sitting down, zenning out for a little bit, building some Lego after a long day of actually building something else in real life.
What do
Um,
you think of the detective office?
top, I don't want top five modular for sure.
It's a good one. I there's a lot of details. I mean, the billiards room is one of my favorite.
Hmm.
The pool room.
The pool
Uh,
table build wise is probably a little outdated at this point,
yeah, they've done some more modern ones.
right?
The one from the Ninjago City Markets,
Yep,
I think,
that's
is
what
a
I was
better
thinking
one.
of. Which I
But
just ordered Ninjago City Markets because they had the kind of on theme with our conversation. You know, if we're talking about more adult themes, Jules Verne tribute gift with
yeah,
purchase. Gosh, they need to remake 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Just
a new movie for that would be
oh
cool. And
right,
then that in a Lego submarine would be super cool.
dude. Lego ideas. Just saying.
Yeah,
I wonder. Okay, since we're talking about it, I've got 20,000.
it's a Disney property. Disney made a movie of it years
It
ago.
looks like you're submitting an IP that we have not evaluated before. You're welcome to submit the idea,
There we
but
go.
we will look into the IP. So I got that just so I could get that gift with purchase. Um, so I got that on the way, and then of course, as soon as I get these shelves finished, I will be actually getting my Lego collection out. So I will have of Lego to do hopefully this next weekend,
Yeah,
because um, I should get the shelves done at this point because I built them from like plywood. So I ripped down the plywood to pieces and totally built them from scratch. Um,
nice.
so I've got the shelves. I put the second coat of paint on them today, and I'm just giving them 24 hours to dry before I start kind of hanging my lights and actually getting the shelves in there. So I'll hopefully do that throughout the week this week, and then next weekend I can hopefully have all that done and start getting out my Lego sets and getting them displayed.
Dude, I'm looking forward to seeing them. We are doing a discussion next week on displaying Lego.
Perfect
So,
timing. Yep.
exactly.
All right, let's go ahead and move over to Brick Mail. Brick Mail. All right.
So, Grinch, I'll take the
Yeah,
first one
perfect. That's what I was going to suggest.
on Apple Podcasts. Fun Pack 16 left us a very kind review. He said, or she, or them, uh, they said that I recently recognized my status as an AFOL and was excited to find a podcast by like-minded people. Grinch and West have interesting perspectives and insights on all things Lego, and the podcast both helps to keep me in the loop on things I have missed and offers some real-world practical wisdom for how to make the most of this hobby as an adult. Love the podcast. Fun Pack 16, thank you so much for the kind review and kind words. We appreciate it. We If you'd like to write to the channel and email us, we'd love to hear more about your own journey as an adult fan of Lego, because it's something we obviously are very proud of too. So, Grinch, what do you got next?
Awesome. We actually thank you, Fun Pack, for the Apple. Was that on Apple podcast review? Um,
It was,
really
yes.
appreciate that as well as the feedback, and really glad you're enjoying the show. So we got an email from Corey Less. He said, "Gentlemen, thank you for creating this podcast. I've really enjoyed hearing about the history of different themes from your perspectives. I loved Lego as a kid, but couldn't afford much. As I got older, I got more into video games and less into Lego. But as an adult, I'm fully into Lego again. My dark age probably spanned 25 years, so topics you discussed have been extremely enjoyable for me. Keep up the good work. Also, when you get your new display shelves finished, I would love to see them if you wouldn't mind sharing. I want to display my sets, but also hate having dust." And then parentheses, my wife breaks them every time she does, so I don't let her touch them anymore. And parentheses, I'm still a few episodes behind, but on the last one I've listened to you mention talking about fake Lego. That's a topic I'd love your perspective on. While quality is lacking, it has allowed me to purchase larger, more expensive sets that were out of my budget. Again, thank you for the podcast, Corey Les. So thank you, Corey, for the feedback. Um, I also hate dust. Like dust and I are the like never-ending battle. In fact, I'm spending too much money on my displays to ensure that they are dust free, as best as I can. So I'm actually I posted a picture on Instagram of just the frame of one, and as soon as I get everything set up, I'm actually going to do a video. So I did a display collection video on my YouTube channel like 2 years ago at this point. So I'll do an updated one in my new space with my new display cabinets. I decided to make them white this go around because the IKEA frames that I was using for the bulk of the actual cabinets, those are cheaper in white. And then when I was the ones that I built five of them from scratch. I've also done white with those because it just takes less light to illuminate it at that point versus having it
Mm,
black, so that the light will kind of shine and reflect off that white surface a little bit better and just illuminate that entire
nice.
space more. So that was my goal there with white. But I got some plexiglass pre-cut for me at a plastics company where I just called them, said, "Hey, I want smallest plexiglass you got, or thinnest, I should say." Give them my dimensions. They cut it for me. I picked it up, and I'm gonna magnetize the ends of it with magnetic tape, and then I'm going to magnetize the frame with magnetic tape of the shelf. And I got the magnetic tape doesn't hold as much as, I mean, it says it holds, a certain weight, but just in case, I got some high powered 1/4 inch thick magnets as well to put on the corners. So it'll, the magnetic tape will hold it in its place, and then those those other ones will hold it actually onto the shelf, and that will allow it to be dust free, as well
If
as
you do
have
that
yeah.
though, make sure you don't have the tape where the magnet will sit.
Don't
So make sure the tape is not on the section the magnet's on.
It's magnetic tape.
Right. You're going to have two sets of magnetic tape
Yeah,
that are
one
going
will
to
be
be
on the shelf,
polarized.
one will be on
Right. But you're
the
saying you're going to get some higher power magnets.
yeah. So those go on the corner. They're 1/4 inch
Right.
thick, which
Don't
is the
put
same
tape.
thickness.
Don't put the tape there.
No, it's going to be magnet to magnet
Right.
to hold it. Those will be super glued on to hold it up.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
then and that way when you pull it off from those magnet. You just pull it off from that area where there's going to be more of the
Right.
attraction.
Is there's not two magnets and then another magnet on top of it. That
No,
would
no, no,
be
no.
weird.
Yeah, it'll be mirrored on each side. So it'll be
Yeah.
magnetic tape on magnetic tape, or the magnet on the magnet.
Okay, that makes sense. Sorry.
And
Look
then
at
there'll
us
be
talking
the
about this.
and then there'll be the light will pop out the back, and
Yeah.
there's a little like guard there so that stuff can't get in and out. So
You're
um,
going big.
I hate dust, and I enjoy doing projects. So this was a good project to do. Um,
There you go.
we have fake Lego as a conversation. We'll get to. You probably won't like my take on fake Lego, but I'll save it for that. But in general, if it is a company that's ripping off an existing Lego set, I don't want to support it personally. If it's a brand like Mega Bloks or Kobe Bricks, I have no issues with them as a company, but I'm more of a Lego purist by definition.
Grinch, you're spoiling our episode.
Well, we'll get to it. There's a lot more. There's a lot more because I've made exceptions before. So
Interesting. Where have you made Okay, we'll save that for
nope,
later.
that we're gonna save. That we're gonna save.
Okay.
All right. And that is a wrap of another episode of AFOLs Welcome. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and leave us a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you're listening to the show. If you'd like to rate the podcast, please email us at afolswelcome@gmail.com or follow us on Instagram at AFOLsWelcome. Thanks for listening, and we will catch you on the next one.